From an entirely different perspective. And now, your host, Frater.
And the chamber is hermetically sealed. Here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another broadcast live of the Middle Chamber with me, your hyperdimensional host for the duration, Frater X. This week I was watching a video called The War Against Us All, which is linked to Richard Grove's website. That's tragedyandhope.com. And, you know, within the first 10 or 15 minutes of this old clip of Terence McKenna talking about art being the answer to global oppression. And at one point he uttered the powerful quote, which I jotted down on the latest pen and ink drawing I'm working on, which is that culture is not your friend. You know, I couldn't agree more. And as we witness this week in the latest shipwreck of presidential selections unfolding before us in stunning high definition and surround sound. Don't forget surround sound, ladies and gentlemen, surround sound. And as I navigate through this horror show, this train wreck of life in the form of telecommunicated propaganda, I pause and wonder, what do we do with all this information coming into our minds at rapid-fire rates? What type of anti-mental virus protection is installed in the operating systems of our daily consciousness? What type of firewall do we have on our brains? What about quarantines for all the harmful data that passes through our mind's browser every day that we don't even really acknowledge? And one has to now wonder out loud, how do we delete malicious and harmful data, information that comes in daily? You know, if our individuated consciousness is in fact not unlike a super advanced quantum processor, how do we protect against mind virus or deliberately structured malicious memes? And it's just something to think about. You know, just putting it out there, if you will. You know, I mean, there's so many little voices out there spreading BS information, you know, cultivating powerful growths of ignorance, outright stupidity, which breeds more in a nightmarish, vicious cycle, leading always to more fear, negativity, and division. And, you know, it's so easy to fall prey to negativity. I speak for myself here. I like to think I have a high threshold of inappropriate talk and behavior that I can shrug off the crassest derision and irreverence, you know, and even engage in it at times in a silly manner, you know, in an irreverent manner. But everyone reaches their limit, the end of the tether, so to speak. You know, I too am prone to lash out when I've had my fill of foolish ignorance. And please remember, in the end, all these so-called experts in research into Western esoteric traditions and orders, mystery traditions in general, have little in the way of insight without experience, without direct experience. You know, this is the basic reality of the mystery experience and mystery traditions. As I have always offered up in a general admonition, don't believe the hype, kids, really. You know, there are so many wild and crazy tales and plenty of negative malcontents out there to feebly attempt to diminish that which they can't even fathom, let alone qualify to gain access to. And there's a reason why things are structured the way they are. Because some information is not just readily made available to those who would consider it in the most irreverent manner, who would dismiss that which is important within. And most people haven't even got a clue as to what we are dealing with here, what we speak about on a regular basis here in the Middle Chamber. You know, and I'm so very thankful of this, to be perfectly honest with you all today, because I think that there needs to be a certain level of discernment before a person could even approach certain information. And that's why things are structured the way they are and have been. You know, and I get into this a lot in my chapter of the Sync Book Volume 2, which is already in pre-press. It should be released next month at the earliest. And by, you know, the winter solstice at the latest is what they're saying. So look for that coming again from Sync Book Press. That's the Sync Book Volume 2 with myself and 25 other authors. So again, I say, open lines this evening, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we review the news. You can call in 218-339-8893. 8525. That's 218-339-8525. Feel free to call in and help to reframe reality as we are presented it through mainstream propaganda, otherwise known as mainstream news. So let's review a little. You know, it was reported from a web news source on fox4now.com out of Naples, Florida. Just 1 month after the Aurora shootings in Colorado, reported Regal Cinemas would begin searching patrons' purses entering their theaters, claiming this violation of privacy was within their right and a stated policy, which they openly displayed in the lobby of their cinemas. Somehow, this story went quietly under my radar. It came out a month after the Aurora shootings until I recently heard commentary, probably on another most excellent show here on American Freedom Radio by the name of Green Wave Radio, with one of my heroes, who is Chris Green. Anybody who hasn't checked out Green Wave Radio, check AmericanFreedomRadio.com for the show times on the radio schedules. I bet it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. This guy is awesome. But he was going over this. They have teenage workers. These are like, minimum wage, entry-level teenagers who are searching moviegoers upon entrance into the cinemas. I mean, I don't know if other people have a problem with this or not, but I think this is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that the shooter in Aurora, supposedly, was dressed up like Bane in some sort of riot gear with multiple weapons. Not at all hiding them in pocketbooks. That's for damn sure. So that right there alone makes this a ridiculous action. And then, of course, there's the blatant. I mean, anybody can tell. This is just one of those. This is how we work. This, if anything, this lends credence to the idea that there probably was a false flag event with regards to Aurora, because policies like this would come out, would spring up in the wake of this event and be like, oh, yeah, it's okay. We're just trying to be safer. We're not really searching your bag for contraband that we don't want you to bring in. We want you to go to the counter and pay $25 for a bag of popcorn and a box of candy and, another $5 for a soda. But don't worry, it's a refillable. All that does is just invite you to gluttony. Let's all just drink 5 giant sodas during a movie and 3 huge tubs of popcorn so we can be rolled out by our family into the driveway where somebody will throw a candy bar in the back seat and get us to get in the car and get us home. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I mean, come on. Anyways, Chris Green also observed on his show last Thursday, I believe, or a couple Thursdays ago, that during the second so-called debate for the presidential selection of our current, selection cycle, our current president, Obama, referred to himself in the past tense as president, past tense, during his rhetoric, as if implying, when I was president, blah, 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 blah. It's very interesting, the slip, if so. It's sort of like a Freudian slip there, past tense. When I was president, whoa, wait a second, when? Aren't you still? I mean, what's going on here? Anyways. So it's just something to consider. Go back and look at these guys. Listen to what they have to say. I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more as we unfold the news and the psychopathic nature with the delivery of the rhetoric we're hearing from these so-called presidential selection candidates. Okay. We have a couple more minutes till the first break. So let's talk about the third quantitative easement. It's from a Reuters article, which I'll put the link up in the chat for anybody who wants to check out this ridiculous policy that's been put in place now. We have the third quantitative easement, which amounts to, like $40 billion a month, just until further notice. There's no end in sight here. And what does this equal for you and me, the average tax-paying stooge on the streets? Well, the bankster thugs get more bailouts until further notice. That's right, more bailouts, no criminal charges brought up against any of these guys that are ripping off people's savings accounts. No. $40 billion a month in new quantitative easement bailout money from the Federal Reserve that just puts more debt. What does it think? You know what it means? So, until further notice. While us, the ungrateful people who think we are entitled to things, we get saddled with the debt and the despair and the rotting infrastructure through every town and city in America, overgrown and broke down everywhere you look. More of the same, only worse, in simpler terms. And if you think for 1 second this will change whatsoever based on which of the so-called two-party system, which is, and it's always been a fact, clearly a one-party political system, candidates who end up in the White House, you're still asleep, everybody. Sorry, it's the truth. Wake the frack up. We'll be right back in the middle chamber. Stay tuned for more right here on American Freedom Radio, everybody.